because you didn't go inside, right? There's that thought, everywhere you go, there you are. So do you need to be doing something different, or do you need to be doing something differently? And it's always going to take you back to values. What's important to you, right? If the thing that's causing you to question your career is that you're working 90 hours a week, you don't know your kids anymore, right? You haven't had a date night with your wife since 1997, right?
Hi, my name is Emeka and welcome to Growth is Personal. Each week, I share insights and strategies that will equip you to accelerate your personal and professional growth and bring you conversations that will empower you to thrive in life, career, and business. Welcome once again to Growth is Personal podcast. Today, we're going to be having a phenomenal conversation with an amazing guest. Her name is Santana Inniss. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes.
Okay, Santana. Thank you for taking the time to join us on the podcast this morning. If you're watching, to our audience who are watching on YouTube, if you're going to watch this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. Make sure that you also leave a comment and tell us about what you think about today's episode. If you also listen on Spotify or Apple, please also leave a rating. Those ratings help us. Give a like, drop a comment, send a voice note. We have every platform you can, drop a voice note and just let us know what you think about today's episode. Thank you for always being a part of the Growth is Personal podcast. So today we have Santana, and Santana did everything right? She got the degrees, she got the titles, she got the bag. I like that part. You always have to get a bag.
Got to get that bag.
Right. But after a decade of leading digital strategy in the nonprofit and tech sectors, she realized that her life was just off. She felt stuck, stressed, and unfulfilled. Driven by her personal development journey, Santana took the bold step of leaving a successful career to align her work with her life's vision. Now, she's helped driven professional folks move from blocked to balanced through alignment coaching. Santana, I'm so excited about this conversation. This is a little bit of intro, and I know you have much more to tell us about you. So please do us a favor, share with us who is Santana Inniss and how do you get into alignment coaching? I like that term, alignment coaching. What does that really mean? So tell us about you, Santana.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really grateful to be here and excited for our conversation. And what a great question. Who is Santana? This is a question you ask yourself throughout the life. Who am I? Right. I guess my story really begins, growing up in kind of a tough neighborhood with immigrant parent and making my way through the world, not really sure what my place was going to be. But as an elder millennial, we got those messages that you need to, you got to pull yourself up, go study, get the degrees, you got to get a job and, climb the ladder and all of those things. And so my path unfolded that way for a lot of my life. I got, my master's degree, my undergraduate degree, entered the workforce and really became sort of, I wouldn't say obsessed, but I was really motivated by can I get the next title? Can I get, the next pay increase? Can I make it into six figures? How far into it can I get? And for quite a while, that worked for me because I loved the puzzles that I would work on. And I think part of the reason that it worked so long was that for most of my professional journey, I was working with nonprofits and NGOs. So in agencies, serving them. And so I could see the impact of my work. And so when you got those 11 p.m. emails or you knew you had to work over the weekend, it's sort of balanced, right? And then in my most recent role, before I left to become a coach, I found myself really far away from that. So I went into tech to work on the nonprofit side, but I wasn't really able to do that work. It was a different sort of role once I found myself in it. And without that ability for me to see my impact in the world instead of being, the tension and the stress of work in balance with fulfillment and impact. It sort of went like this.
Hmm.
And I found myself in pretty severe burnout relatively quickly. And in taking the time to recover from that burnout, I started asking myself some of those deep questions. Who am I? Right.
Hmm. Mhm.
And when I say this isn't working, what specifically isn't working? And what do I need more of and less of? And how do I start making decisions that will bring me closer to this vision that I have for the way that, I would love to lead my life? And that brought me into the space of coaching, because working with people to go into some of those spaces where it's difficult to ask those questions. I've been practicing for over a decade in my own personal development journey. So I have some skills and tools and frameworks to ask myself these questions and to sit with whatever comes up, but not everybody does. And so I love doing that work so much that I knew to be in alignment, I had to go, just full in and full on, to realigning, to getting back to the center of the kind of impact that I want to have in the world. So it's a little bit about my story and a little bit
Hmm.
about what the alignment journey has looked like for me.
Hmm. Yeah, well, when you were sharing, some things jumped out at me, and I wanted to go, back to, at what point did you figure out that you had to, because now you see a lot of people who are going to coaching or helping people, and some things I see on the thread or comments, some people say is, well, how are you qualified to be able
Yeah.
to help, when you're still trying to figure out yourself? So at what point do you get to that mindset that I'm able to help others because I've been able to help myself? Like, what made you believe that you have the capacity now to be able to help people through alignment coaching?
Yeah, and that's a fantastic question, because I think if you look on internet, you look on Instagram, all of these places, TikToks, you'll see a lot of people that are like, I'm a coach, and zero shade. Like, I love anyone that is out here trying to help someone in some way. And also, I knew that I wanted to pursue this path professionally. And for me, that meant really taking the time to dig in on education in the art and the ethics and the morality of becoming a coach, right? Because when
Mm.
someone puts themselves sort of into your hands as a coach in the space that you create together, it's very intimate, and they're sharing details about their lives, their struggles, their fears. It's very vulnerable. And in that space, I think coaches have a tremendous responsibility to do that in a way that's healthy and safe and professional and ethical. And so for me, I've been in this personal development game for over a decade. I mean, anything there is out there to try, probably I've tried it. Therapy, psychedelics, Buddhism, meditation, mindfulness, self-compassion, lots of modalities. So that qualifies me, right? But I wanted to go further. I wanted to make sure that I had the ethical framework, the training, the mentorship, the supervision to become a coach in a professional capacity.
See.
I don't know if
Mm.
that answers your question.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes, yeah, that does, because you see a lot of people doing these things, and people are kind of questioning that, oh, everyone is a coach these days. Like, someone could just come up on LinkedIn, for example, and say, I'm a coach. What makes you qualify? So I like the fact that you have to tie in education, self education development to that. Okay, let's go into your experience now. What does finding alignment really mean, and how does it impact our personal growth, and also our career success? And what I mean is alignment, like, because when I hear the word align, it does almost like an equilibrium, something here and something there. How do you create almost like a balance such that people are, zeroed in, grounded, and have a full life, right? So what does finding alignment really mean, and how does it help us to, in our personal growth and career success?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of what it doesn't look like. We all know someone that will say, "Oh, I'm looking for this kind of relationship. Oh, I'm looking for someone that's very secure and, communicates very well." And, next thing you know, you're in the WhatsApp group chat and they're like, "Oh, this one's so bad and he's doing this and he's doing that and blah, blah." And it's like, okay. So you have a goal. You know what you want. You know what will feel good to you in a relationship, for example. But you make all these decisions that take you way over here, right? You're going with ones that are telling you, "I don't want relationship," or they're telling you, "Oh, I just got out of a marriage and I'm not available right now." But you think maybe you can change them. This is just an example. So your actions aren't aligning, right? You want to go north and your actions are taking you west. You're never going to get north if you walk west. And so that's an aspect of life where you might find that the behaviors and the actions that you take, the things that you say, the things that you do are taking you away from what you know would feel good for you. And that also comes into life in a professional way, right? So many of us go into jobs because someone told us to, right? Our parents told us to become a doctor. Our parents told us to become a lawyer, or my dad was a mechanic, so now I'm a mechanic. And there could be pressure that drives us there. There could be, well, I guess this is my only choice that drives us there. But again, when you take a decision or an action that doesn't sit right with you, eventually it's going to lead you to a place where you can't ignore that message anymore. And so in the professional or in the personal development spaces, which we're developing as people throughout our lives, and we happen to be humans that also work, right? So professional and personal development, they're somehow tied together.
Yes.
But when we're developing personally, we're walking on a path of trying to know ourselves more deeply and to become okay with what we learn, right? To become okay, to become in love with the self completely. The parts that are hard to love, the parts that are easy to love holistically. And then what do you do with that information when you have it? When you align your actions to the vision that you have for your life or to what you know about yourself. When I say vision for your life, I'm thinking like, you'd like to have children, for example, maybe in 10 years. Or, you'd like to live in a place with warm weather. Maybe you'd like to become an entrepreneur. Okay, you can't do those things overnight. How do you make a project management plan for life? How am I going to get from point A to point Z, right? And that's what alignment is. And the impact of that, when you can become comfortable with yourself and what you need to be well in this world, and you can set yourself on a path to get there, you unlock a fountain of wellness, of ease, of peace. When you are in flow, you're not going against what feels natural to you. And that's what alignment is. And that's what alignment coaching can help people to bring into their lives.
Okay. Before I go to my next question, I want to take you on this particular point. So are you saying that to be in alignment with your purpose, for example, you need to know the end states, like you need to know the vision, like you need to know what exactly you want to achieve, and then make sure your actions align with it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sometimes, yes. Knowing the end state is very difficult.
Right.
For two reasons. Oftentimes, especially when we're adults, we don't have permission to dream in that way. Try it. Anybody watching this podcast right now, close your eyes and say, what is the life of my wildest dreams? Everything has gone perfect for me. What does that look like? I guarantee you, as you start to answer that question, things are going to pop up in your way. Oh, I could never. Oh, that's not for me. That's only from people from this background. Or I could never achieve that. Or I'm not smart enough, right? So it's difficult to dream up the vision. Also, as you set out on your journey in life, you may be working toward the vision that you know today, but from a spiritual perspective, or even just an intellectual perspective, there's only so much imagination can help you with, because you don't know every possibility that's available out there.
Right.
So as your journey unfolds, going into alignment is a set of skills. Alignment coaching gives you a compass so that you can stay true to you even as you evolve, right?
Mm.
And as you evolve, you might come to say, you know what, actually, I don't want kids, or I do. Or, you know what, I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but I'm realizing now that that came a little bit from some conditioning, from my society, from my family. What I'd actually like to do is become a podcaster and help people on their personal growth journey.
Mm.
Okay, now you're realigning. So, yes, and
Mm.
I guess would be
Mm.
the answer to your question.
Okay.
Yes, and
Right. Yeah, I think that works. That works. Yeah, it does. Because yeah, we can say, because I think the pressure of knowing the end and knowing the vision sometimes can make people get overwhelmed and
yes,
don't even want to talk about this whole alignment and getting a sense of direction. So it's okay to evolve, but aligning with you means understanding you and your values and what exactly you want to live by or be known for or stand for, and then align your actions and aspirations in that direction. Okay.
absolutely. And I love
Oh,
that you said that,
okay.
because I talk often about the pillars of alignment,
Mm.
right? And uh, other coaches or other folks that talk about the topic of alignment, they'll use 3, or they'll use, what have you. I use 4. And it starts with values. It always starts with values. We all have them, and it's also difficult to just name them.
Mm.
I always give this example. Explain to me some complicated rule of grammar in your native language. You can't do it because you learned it by osmosis, right? You learned it just coming into being. You learned it hearing your language spoken, and you can say it correctly, but you cannot explain why. Sometimes when you learn a new language later in life, you start from the framework of learning the rules.
Mm.
Values are similar. They just come into your being, and they're running in the background. But very often when we say, okay, I feel guilty, or I'm feeling maybe shame, or I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling like, you know what, that person cheated me. Something has gone against a value.
Mm. Mm.
And when we can't name them readily, it's difficult for us to explain that sensation. But when we do the work of calling them from the background into the foreground and getting more intimate with our values, we can say, I feel like that person cheated me because I have a value of fairness. It's a core value. And this person's action stepped across that core value.
Right.
Now I can make an empowered choice about how I want to act going forward, or react, or behave, or what have you. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you just went right into my next questions around the 4 pillars, because I think when I was going through your profile and your post, I saw that 4 pillars, and I was really interested because I want you to share about it here on the podcast, around the 4 pillars of alignment and how do they help us become a better version of ourselves. You mentioned one, which is values. So what are the other 3 pillars that we can use to be able to get our alignment?
Yeah. So it starts with values. And when you hear values, you might make a value judgment, right? That
Mm.
word can be kind of heavy. Um, but it's really just about a deep knowing of what's important to us, right?
Yeah.
So then we go into visions. And you already said something really important. When you think about a vision for your life, there are people that I personally know that have a 20-year plan. And I see that and I say, ooh, it's not for me. It gives me hives. I cannot think about a 20-year plan because after year one, it's obsolete. And the size of it makes me not want to start. So when I say visions and visioning, it's about creating a playful sandbox for ourselves. Go into the sandbox, get out your toys, and imagine what are some scenarios in which you feel great. And we're just looking for big buckets of themes. Sometimes when I run this exercise with clients, I'll say, okay, we're going to go into the multiverse because I love comics. I'm Team DC, not Marvel, so please don't come at me in the comments. But this concept of the multiverse, like, people know about this. They've seen a Marvel movie, and it's this idea that there could be a version of you on another planet, in another universe. It's you, but your life is a little different. So I say, please close your eyes. Let's go to the multiverse. You're on planet 32. What is life like? There's no barriers. There's no suffering. There's joy. You feel balanced. You feel good. Describe your day. Just describe your day. And this can form the basis of a vision. Sometimes I do this exercise with folks, and they'll realize for the first time that they want children or they don't, or that they'd like to be married or they would not, or that they'd like to be a stay-at-home mom or dad, or any of these big buckets of things that happen in life. But it takes going into that creative space where you can say, okay, there's no limits, there's no judgments, there's no hardship. What would life look like? Okay, so vision, and that helps us to see what our values look like in action in a vacuum, right?
Yeah, yeah.
When we start to vision that, we go into mindset, and that's the third pillar of alignment. Because when we start to imagine life going great, woo, you get some feedback from your brain, right? You start to get those limiting beliefs. You start to get those like, ooh, I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. Like whatever is your personal flavor of that little voice inside that's not helpful, it's going to start to come up. And it's especially true when your vision for life is really different than the life that you're currently living, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But that's when you're in a space where, I'm getting a clue. I'm getting a clue now that to start living closer to what's true for me, I need to make some changes. And change is very often scary, and the brain will try to stop you. So the fourth pillar is actions. In mindsets, we uncover the mindsets and we start to work with them. We can question them, we can transform them, we can let some go, we can take on some new ones, so that when you start taking your actions, because those voices are going to come back. So when you start taking your actions, what's my game plan here for working with those limiting beliefs when they pop up? And so that fourth pillar is actions. What does it look like to align your action to what is your own North Star? So values, visions, mindset, actions.
Okay. So let's play a scenario. So we have someone who is coming to you now.
Yep.
And say they're career professionals and they're not loving their work. They're getting frustrated that they're not in alignment with what they want to do in their mind. They feel like there's something missing in their life's work. Now they come to you and say, I need to be in alignment. And how can they make this now? I understand that, the value, vision, mindset, action. What can they do in a practical standpoint to be able to help them make that adjustment to be in alignment to the kind of career they want to take? Would there be something you would say outside of as a practical example to take action now and begin to see some result? I don't know if that's too fast, or or what would you recommend?
In that case, the first question I usually start with is, do you need to be doing something different, or do you need to be doing something differently? And that's an important place to start, right? Because I think often when we come to the realization, it's an acceptance of, okay, I know that this isn't working. This job or this role or this career, I accept it's not working. We want to take action fast, fast, fast. But we need to know some things about ourselves and about what's going on, because otherwise you can just jump from one job to another or one career to another, and you end up there with the same problems because you didn't go inside, right?
Hmm.
There's that thought, everywhere you go, there you are.
Hmm.
So do you need to be doing something different, or do you need to be doing something differently? And it's always going to take you back to values. What's important to you, right? If the thing that's causing you to question your career is that you're working 90 hours a week, you don't know your kids anymore, right? You haven't had a date night with your wife since 1997, right?
Hmm.
If that's the thing that's off, well, then I would say, but do you enjoy the substance of what you do? Are you still fired up by the questions you get asked at work, the problems you solve, the things that you're doing? Then we know you need to be doing something differently, but not different. We need to be prioritizing that value of family and
Hmm.
making sure that you can move into either a role, a company under a manager that will allow you more flexibility in the life, where you're not working 90 a week, maybe you're working 45, where you're not on call on weekends, but maybe
Hmm.
you're starting the day earlier, right? So that's a different Lee example. Sometimes you answer that question though, and it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter if you made 100,000 more dollars, if they gave you your own house and a private jet. It doesn't matter if you became a famous person overnight. Nothing could make you want to keep doing that thing. Now we know you need to be doing something different. So that's usually where we can start. It
Hmm.
sounds like such a subtle difference, but it's really important to ask.
Great. I like that. I like that concept. Something different or something differently. And that would really resonate with me because I see a lot of times, also in my coaching experience, that people, want to do something different. They feel like this answer is always to do something different. And that's why they jump from job to job or from a business to another business without understanding their core values and knowing what exactly they want from life and making decisions based from that standpoint. Hmm. Okay, let's move on. How do you then stay true to your purpose during times of change and insanity? So now we're in the time where people are, I mean, yeah, we can see the world. Yeah, apart from the COVID that just hit, but we have people experiencing uncertainty in their careers, people getting laid off. How do you stay true to your purpose in those difficult times, in those uncertain times?
Yeah. I mean, it starts with knowing it, right? And I can't stress enough from my work. I'm sure you see this in yours as well as a coach. Um, Most people, if you ask them to sit down and write, what's my purpose, they don't have an answer. And that's human, right? We're going through life. We're very busy. We have
Hmm.
things to do. We have mouths to feed. We have, work. And so most people don't have the time to sit down and to think critically about what is my purpose. So for me, when this happened to me, right, I was swept up in the great tech layoff of 2023. I had to sit down and think, okay, am I going to go immediately back into the job search? Am I going to look for another job in tech? Am I going to look for another job doing digital strategy? How can I get closer to what feels like purpose? All right, dig it back up. You know what your purpose is. You figured that out a while ago. Okay, Queen, you know what it is. Great. So we're having a hard time, right? When
Hmm.
you're in struggle, something I often say is if you're struggling, help someone. But that aligns with my vision and my values, right? Because to be of service, to be helpful, to be people ask me, what is my purpose? I would say my purpose is to alleviate suffering in self and others. And so even though I might be suffering, to be in alignment with my purpose and my values, I will say, other people are suffering too. So while I take care of myself, I will also pour into my community. I will ask my community to hold me and pour into me. And as we're all supporting each other, we lift those boats. But that's an example from what feels like my purpose and how I would be in alignment with my purpose. So when someone says, I'm having a really hard time, there is a desire to maybe numb or distract or drown out those sensations of being in struggle. But I think very often the way to get through struggle fastest is straight through. So not numbing, not avoiding, but what does purpose feel like to me? Reconnecting to it in times of struggle, and then figuring out how you can get the support that you need while you're in struggle, and how you can pour into those around you when they struggle.
Great point. Point to people. Yeah, I think that really resonated with, I think, with me, and I believe, when you look at the work in general, our work, every work that we do is to add value to someone else. So if you look at it, the grand scheme of things of our work, be it the job, tech, or whatever, you are doing that to help somebody. So if we look at it from that standpoint, we can say, yes, it's safe to say that sometimes when you're feeling that, during tough times, one of the approach is to find someone else that you can pour into, as you're also getting, your own self aligned, or sorting your own self out, but help other people. Because I think it also helped me too when I came to Canada, at the point when I was struggling to find a job and all. But one thing I knew was I wanted to help people, right? So I went to volunteer and helping people find jobs. So I was in like a coaching session for people who are looking for jobs, help them with resume, help them with interviews. But I haven't got a job there. But what that did for me was to make me look beyond my own struggle and put me in a place where I have to give. And there's something about giving that gives back to you. And before you know it, things begin to fall in place. Okay, let's move on. What are the specific daily habits or practices that contribute to being in alignment with yourself, and also fostering personal growth? What are the daily activities that you would recommend, or that you do or practice, that helps you stay in alignment?
Yeah, I love the word practice. Not only from the standpoint of like practice makes perfect, but also from the sort of connotation of ritual. Like it is a daily practice of being in alignment. It's something that's in motion all the time, right? Because we're making millions of tiny decisions every single day, right? And so we have many opportunities to practice being in alignment. But, for many people, for me, something that I practice, and I have to remind myself to practice, is I can't say yes to everything, right? I have to be intentional about my yeses and intentional about my nos. And it's no shade to anyone or any opportunity or any event in particular. But if I know that, I'm really cultivating these pillars of alignment, or I'm really focused on, this year my intentions are community, connection, and the divine feminine. These are the things that I'm investing my time in this year in 2024. So if I have to choose between going out and having a lot of drinks, it's a club night. I'm flirting with 40. We don't club anymore, but like it's a club night, or there's some event going on that's sort of in alignment with these intentions that I set for the year. What choice am I going to make, right? And making sure to bring awareness to, okay, I'd really like to have some fun, and I'd really like to commit to my intentions because these are going to bring me closer to where I want to go. I think we're faced with a million tiny decisions like that every week, certainly every month for sure, of small little moments where you can either, and some are neutral, right?
Mm-hmm.
Millions of moments that are neutral, that have no impact. It's like, am I going to eat a banana or an orange? It's okay. It's all healthy. It's a fruit, right? No problem. But if one of your core values is health and you're trying to decide between having a really balanced meal and like getting that chicken sandwich from Popeyes, like, there's an opportunity for you to practice.
No shades to Popeyes, yeah. So it's okay.
No shade to Popeyes. And so when I say practice, why that resonates with me so much is because we don't have to be perfect. When we identify our values, what we're not trying to do is shame ourselves into living them. No, this is just how we prefer to live, or we aspire to live.
Right.
And when we say, I practice living in alignment, I practice my values, that gives us opportunity to fail and to get back up. Every new decision that we make is an opportunity to begin again. So if you're feeling into a value that you want to add to your list, it's felt missing for you, and you really want to practice living this value, you're going to fail. You're going to forget. You're going to fall down. You're going to make the wrong choice. You're going to feel out of alignment. But how wonderful that it's a practice and it's not a fixed point, because that means we can fall down and we can get back up. We have an opportunity to begin again.
I love the fact that you mentioned that two things that you mentioned that I think is very key to highlight again is, being in alignment with, yourself, your purpose. You have to be intentional, but also remember that it's a practice. So give yourself grace, such that even when you make mistakes or you falter, you can get back again, and don't beat yourself up. Because what happens is that, people then get beat up and they're like, nah, I'm not doing that again. I don't like the feeling of failing. I don't like the feeling that I get when I make those mistakes. But when you see that it's a practice, an ongoing journey, you get back again, and God gives you force. So thank you for sharing that. Let's go into how do you, for those seeking alignment in their careers, because one of the our guests in our audience in this podcast are usually, they're more career professionals, because based on our research, how would you say that career professionals can align, those seeking alignment, how can they align their values to their day-to-day work?
Yeah.
Right. So they're doing a job that doesn't align with their values. How can they then create that balance? That looks like a very big question. I don't know if there's really an answer to that.
Well, let's dive in. Let's explore.
Let's explore.
Right? Let's explore. Again, different or differently, right? Is it a value like family time that's out of alignment? Or is it a value like the environment, and you're working for like a big oil company? Ooh, that's going to be tough for you, right? I also want to bring us back to the idea of vision, right? Because even though we're not painting a picture and going toward that one life and it's fixed in stone, right? There are broad strokes that are true, right? And so if you say, you're a man, I want to have a wife, I want to have 4 children. Do you have a wife and 4 children money? Do you? Right? So you will know that money and how much you earn and how much you're able to invest and how much you're able to save, this is a part of the vision, and it's a part of what can be in alignment for your career. This comes up a lot in the space where I have clients that are nervous to negotiate their salary when they receive a job offer. Because there's a space of like, well, I got to be grateful, I got to pay my dues, or a scarcity mindset. If I advocate for myself, they're going to take it away. But in reality, when we know, okay, for my vision in life to be well, or for my vision of fairness, to be paid a fair market rate for the skills that I bring to the table, I have to speak up, right?
Hmm.
That would be in alignment with your value of fairness, of, for example, stability, financial stability, if that happens to be a value. So you got to figure out what your values are, and then that will tell you how to navigate to be in alignment. I'll give you an example from my career. Some of my core values are reducing suffering in self and others, justice. Those are two that are important. So before this example, for many years, I worked in and around nonprofit NGOs, these types of mission-driven things. I would very often work in spaces and with clients where I could see, this will bring about more justice in the world. If I do my job right, that will enable them to do their jobs better. And if they do their jobs better, there will be more justice in the world. So
Hmm.
this is an example of a way that I aligned my career to that value. And so when I made a career pivot into tech, and I was no longer able to see the direct impact of my work relative to that value, woo, I felt out of alignment really fast.
Hmm.
I fell out of alignment really fast. You haven't asked this, but I'll offer, what does it feel like to be out of alignment in your career? For so many, there's this mentality, I'm from the US, there's this mentality of like, you get an entry-level job, you pay your dues, you climb the ladder. You know, you don't rock the boat, you're grateful for what you get, and you don't all of these beliefs that we kind of come up with. And that's really important to consider because there's a lot of feelings that you will have in your body if you're in a bad environment at work. If
Hmm.
you have a boss that is doing any of the isms, sexism, racism, ageism, any of the isms,
Hmm.
you will have some feedback from your body. And that feedback can look like heartburn, can look like stress, it can look like difficulty connecting in your relationships, not sleeping. The classic signs of chronic stress is very often the first way that people will notice that they're out of alignment. So how can you tell if you're out of alignment in your career or in your profession? How do you feel when you wake up in the morning and you know you need to go to work or start the computer? How do you feel? Are you dreading it? Do you get a panic when you think about the meeting your boss put on your calendar? Do you feel like you can't see the impact of your work that you want to have? For everyone, it's a little bit different, but it starts with how do you feel, and then what is off? What's the value that's not being lived here? What's being trespassed against?
Hmm.
How is this helping me or hurting me from getting to this goal that I have? I want to retire when I'm 65. For many people, that's not possible now. I
Hmm.
got to retire when I'm 65. I need to make sure that I'm getting the bag. I'm prioritizing being paid the fair market rate for what I'm earning. So it really always comes back to, who are you? What do you value? And where do you see yourself going broadly?
Okay.
And is that job helping you get there or not? And if it's not, it's time to make some moves, take some actions.
Whoa, whoa. This is, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. And I like the fact that you went from the place of value, but you also went to the place of vision, because I think it's really important we emphasize this. And you mentioned that, based on the vision and what you see for yourself, is the job itself making, I like the fact that you mentioned money, like, because people don't want to talk about this. And one of the things that people struggle a lot is that they're in a place where they're not getting paid to the point where it helps them stay in alignment with their values and the things that they really want to do. So how then do you make those decisions? Is by taking actions and knowing that, okay, for example, if my value is family and having a good time with my family, leaving a legacy where my kids have memories and stuff, then I need to have some certain sort of income to do that, right? So that means that the kind of work that I find to do should be able to pay me to be able to make those things happen.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not in that place or that job that pays you that, then you now begin to think, okay, maybe there might be something else that I can do, not differently, but different, that can help me to get the commensurate income that can
Yeah.
help me meet my values. Hmm.
100%. And sometimes it's not
Hmm.
as simple as I quit this job, I start that job, and my life is fixed.
No,
We have to see the life as a whole,
not at all. Yeah.
right? And it might not be possible for you to get legacy money and your next role, right? But what about 3 roles from now? Are you setting yourself up for 3 roles from now?
Hmm.
Are you
Hmm.
setting yourself up for that? Everything in life is about steps and plans. We like to think about it or we don't like to think about it, but are you setting yourself up for this future vision? Are you working in the direction of it? If you stay in the job that's not paying you, if you ask for a raise and they say no, I guarantee you the person that comes in after you is going to make at least 20K more. Almost always happens in most professional jobs
Hmm.
because organizations don't adjust pay relative to the market rate. They are forced to adjust when they need to bring in new talent. So if you're in an organization that doesn't value your contribution enough to keep giving you more opportunity to earn more, you got to go. Because even in your next role, you could immediately earn 10K more because that's where the market has gone in the 1 or 2 years that you've been at your job.
Right, right,
You're just
right.
not in the world anymore where you get a job when you're 18 and it pays you enough to have 2 kids and 2 cars and 2 vacations a year and you work till you die and you get a pension. That word doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It
So we
doesn't.
got to make the moves that align with us. Because
Hmm.
as we're seeing with all these layoffs, corporations do that so well. They will make the moves that align with shareholder returns. So make the moves that align with your own returns.
Come on now. Hey, and sometimes it has to be a tough choice, like tough
Yeah,
decisions.
yeah,
Like to
absolutely.
be in, I think I wanted to talk about that. To make alignment, to be in alignment with your values, your passion, your vision, you have to make tough decisions. And I think we need to agree on that. Like
Yeah,
we need to agree with ourselves that sometimes we have to make tough decisions. And sometimes we might have to pay the price of making those decisions. Because sometimes, or for example, I have to move, do something different, but I'm afraid that I would have to start from, maybe learning something else, or I will have to work with a different environment or new teams. How am I going to start? So that fear stops a lot of people from making that move. But we have to get to the point where we realize that we have to make those tough decisions, and it will not at the beginning not be pleasant. It might not be pleasant at the beginning, but at the end, like you said, in 3 years' time or in 3 rows' time, are we setting ourselves up for that vision?
yeah.
Hmm.
And what you're talking about is the third pillar of alignment. When that message comes up that says, "Oh my gosh, how can I possibly start with a new team? It's going to be so hard. I can't do it." This is a mindset.
Hmm.
This is a belief system. It is not a fact, right? You've already shown that you can learn how to work with a team. So why can we believe about the self that you're not capable of learning how to work with a new team? We already know that at one point you never had a job in your life, then you got a job and you learned that job. So we already know that you can learn jobs, right? So
Hmm.
the belief is it is a mindset. And when we recognize that this is a mindset, we can work with it, right? And we can
Right.
give ourselves the tools that we need because it's human. It's so human that when we're moving out from a place of safety into a place of risk, we're going to be afraid,
Right.
right? So how do you feel the fear and do it anyway because you know it's going to take you closer to your vision for life?
I'm enjoying this conversation. I can keep going on because I think this is really the core of our values here at this podcast. Because oftentimes I say to people that growth, personal growth, or becoming more, oftentimes doesn't have to do with external factors because we're looking for solutions outside, whereas the solution is within us. Like this
Yes.
mindset, this value, these visions, and taking action. These four pillars you mentioned are so powerful. And I mean, if you have, I probably sign up for your classes if you have what going on because it's really an important conversation that we need to have. And I hear
Yeah.
questions, my DM people asking, "Oh, I'm not enjoying my work and all of that." So this is very important, and I believe that you have something going on or programs, or even if we're going to have a contact information. So guys, if you want to connect with Santana, we'll have all the information, and you have questions for her, I'll put that in the show notes so that you can reach out, ask questions, and find out about how to work with her. Because this is something that you need to begin to have now to set yourself up for success or the legacy that you want to leave behind, in the future. Okay, so that brings me to my final three questions. Santana, are you ready for this?
Yes, let's go. Pew, pew, pew.
Okay, so these questions, you can answer it in one word or you can expatiate on the word.
Okay.
First question. What is one unexpected hobby or interest you've discovered on your path to alignment and purpose?
People are often surprised to know about me, but I had a brief stint as a line dancer. And if it
Uh,
was available in Portugal, I would do it again.
oh, a line dancer.
Country Western.
Oh, nice.
Very
Okay.
surprising.
Okay. Second question. If you could share a piece of advice with your younger self about finding purpose, what would it be?
Hmm. It would probably be the way out is through.
Say that again.
The way out is through.
Wow. That's profound. The way out is through. Can you elaborate on that through? What does that mean?
Yeah. So many times in life, you just said this, you said a version of this. People say, oh, I don't like my job. They're looking for the solution externally. The solution is always by going in and through the body.
Hmm.
Always. Always. If there's a belief, if there's a trigger, if there's a trauma, if there's a fear, you cannot solve this externally. You can only solve this by going through the heart, through the mind, through the body. And every time my younger self tried to avoid that reality,
Hmm.
you end up on that hamster wheel. You're spinning, 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 spinning in suffering. You're spinning in, I don't like my job. I don't like my life. I don't like my relationships. When I decided to get off of that wheel and face myself and to face the reality of going through, everything in my life started to change.
Hmm. Powerful. The way out is through. That should be we should have something designed for that.
T-shirt.
Yeah, that's a good one. T-shirt. All right, the last question. So finally, what's one takeaway or mantra you would like our listeners to remember when embarking on their own journey towards alignment and purpose? I feel like you've answered these questions already. But
Sure.
this
So
last
let me
thing.
remix a new answer.
Okay.
I've said it in another way, but I'll say it again. When you are moving closer to something that's true for you, you will feel fear. You will feel fear. Absolutely. It is a given.
Hmm.
Don't think that the person next to you that's already achieved what you want to achieve hasn't felt fear.
Hmm.
They felt the fear and they did it anyway. And so what does do it anyway mean? It means acknowledging that you're feeling afraid. And you say, why? Why am I afraid? What do I need to feel well? What do I need to feel strong and safe and bold and brave? And then
Hmm.
you give yourself the thing you need. Do I need a hug? Do I need encouragement? Do I need to call my mom? Call your mama. Hype man from day one. Hype man from day one. What do you need to work through the fear? Because when we resist the fear, we fight the fear. It's counterintuitive, but when we fight something we don't want to feel, we're going to end up feeling it longer and staying in the same place that we don't want to be. So the courage to say, I want another way. I will feel the fear, and then I'll do what I want to do anyway.
Wow. What a session. I feel like you had a lot of gems, you had a lot of takeaways, you had a lot of reflective moments here. And this is going to be one of the podcasts that I will come back to listen again, because there's so much to reflect here and so much to take in. Thank you so much, Santana,
Thank you.
being a blessing. I think I have a lead in my spirit that someone is going to listen to this episode and their life will never remain the same. And thank you for sharing so openly, so selflessly. It's such a pleasure having you on the show, Santana. I know we have, we're wrapping things up here. Are there any final words you'd like to say to those who are listening and those who are going to be watching?
What I would say is, you got this. You got this. And I will believe in you enough until you can believe in yourself as much as I believe in you. You can absolutely unlock a life that fulfills you and feels purposeful and values driven. And welcome to the journey.
Thank you so much, guys. Please leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. Leave a comment if you have questions. I know this is going to bring a lot of questions. Don't keep them to yourself. Send the questions, and I would forward them to Santana. I promise you. And I'll try to find a way for her to answer those questions. But we're going to have all our contact information in the show notes, how you can reach Santana and how you can be a part of her community as well. Thank you so much, Santana. It was a pleasure having the podcast. Remember, your growth is personal. No one is responsible for your personal growth but you. Stay blessed, and bye for now. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you love this episode, share it with your friends on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. If you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our episode, and give us a rating. This will help our podcast get more visibility to those who don't know about this podcast. Remember, your growth is personal. No one is responsible for your personal growth but you. Stay blessed.